Invited the candidates out. Some could make it tonight. Some scheduling was an issue for some. Some are running late. But nevertheless, the ones that are here, we're going to hear from them. This was meant to be inviting, friendly, family atmosphere, just to really get information. This is the information gathering setting. This is not a political setting. This is not something where there's any endorsements or anything of that nature. This is purely for informational purposes, to make sure that you as a constituent understand the issues and find some information regarding a particular candidate or elected official in their respective roles. We have, as you know, we have races coming up in the 2026 block, and we have U.S. Senate race. You know, it's been known for a few months now that U.S. Senator Dick Durbin has decided not to run for re-election. And thus far, people who have submitted or made known that they are anticipating or trying to get the office of U.S. Senator has been our Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, Congressman Roger Christie-Morphy, and Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Those three. I believe that Congresswoman Kelly is in D.C. I don't believe she'll be here tonight, but Congressman Roger Christie-Morphy will be here shortly. But we have with us now our Lieutenant Governor, Ms. Juliana Stratton, who served in the General Assembly before taking that role of being Lieutenant Governor. And tonight, the format is, if you haven't received them already, there's some cards going around, but we also have some questions that I've done based on certain topics of the day, so to speak, that we'll go around, she'll pick it, and then we'll go from there.
If this was one that you could ask, would they be able to turn the street lights on
So the way the
147th
format is
Street?
going to run.
Can you put that on my card for me?
Candidate's going to have an opportunity to have a 3-minute opening statement.
It missed one
Select the
long.
cards, the topic, I'll ask the question, and then we'll go a little Q&A.
Because Clark said
and then
it was
she'll have a closing statement.
somebody in the state got
So,
to do it.
without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our Lieutenant Governor, Mrs. Juliana Stratton.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank your committeeman, Supervisor Napoleon Harris. Thank you for your leadership, and to all of the Thornton Township Democrats for this gathering tonight. And thank you all for being so engaged in our democracy. This is what democracy looks like, people coming out to hear from the candidates who want to represent them. And I get the opportunity to work with your supervisor, and I just want to say thank you so much for bringing us together. I am Juliana Stratton. I'm proud to serve as your Lieutenant Governor alongside Governor J.B. Pritzker, but I'm especially proud to be here tonight as a candidate to represent you in the United States Senate.
Wow.
We have an opportunity. As you heard, Senator Dick Durbin decided that he is not running for re-election in 2026. And it will be the first time that this seat is open in 30 years. So there's an opportunity to elect someone new and bring new voices, new perspectives, and new energy to Washington, D.C. I always say that I'm not a typical politician. I don't come from a political family. I didn't come from, like, this was not the plan that I had my whole life. I got to this place of running for Senate because 10 years ago I was caring for my mother who had Alzheimer's. And as I was caring for her, my previous state representative and our previous governor were working to strip away health care from seniors. And I looked at the television and I yelled at the television, somebody should run against him. I did not know it would be me. But I saw a need and I stepped up to meet that need because I knew that so many seniors in our communities needed health care just like my mother did. Here we are, 10 years later. I ran that race and I won it, by the way. And now 10 years later, what I've been doing is not sitting around planning to run for Senate. I've been doing the work, getting big things done for the people of Illinois alongside our governor. We have created thousands of jobs all over our state. We raised the minimum wage, lifting so many people out of poverty. And we have protected our rights, which is so important. And so here I am seeing another opportunity where we are again seeing so much being stripped away by Donald Trump and congressional Republicans. And once again, I, Juliana Stratton, see a need, and I'm stepping up to fill it. So I'm here tonight grateful for this opportunity to answer your questions and to share a little bit about my campaign for United States Senator. But mostly what I want you to know is that I don't want this to be the only time we talk. My job as a senator will be to take your voices with me to Washington. And that means we have to be together. You all have seen me in the Southland, and some of you may not have, but I've been here over and over again. I saw some people tonight that I saw last time I was here. And my job will be to recognize all of the strengths of the Southland, making sure that I advocate for you and take your voices with me to Washington. And I look forward to working hard to earn your support. And I'm ready to take your questions. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Lieutenant Governor. At this time, Mr. Russell's going to present cards, pull from the cards, and then that's when we're going to start with the questions.
Okay. Oh, do you take it?
Wave it.
The category, this is like Jeopardy. The category is voting rights and democratic reform.
So the first question is,
Okay, wave now.
the Supreme
He done
Court's
turned his
recent
little head.
decisions have weakened federal voting protections. Will you support federal legislation to guarantee things like same-day registration, automatic registration, and vote by mail? Also, and will you advocate for the structural reforms, i.e. filibuster changes or court expansions necessary to make that legislation possible?
Well, first of all, voting rights are important to all of us. I mean,
It's
we're all
crowded.
here because we understand the power of the vote. And we know that there's an administration in Washington right now that wants to take away that power. They want people to be disenfranchised. They want to suppress the vote. I'm proud of what we've been able to do here in Illinois to expand the right to vote. Those things that you talked about, same-day voter registration, mail-in ballots and voting, those are things that we have done here in Illinois, which is why I want to run for why I'm running for the United States Senate, because I want to take the things that we have gotten done right here in Illinois to Washington, D.C. When I think about, one of the things that I want to say about voting rights is to recognize that Donald Trump has spent so much of his time, not just in this term, but his first term and every year in between, trying to spread lies about our voting system, our election system. Our election system is safe and it is fair, but he is trying to discredit it so that people will step away and not trust our voting and electoral system. We have to make sure that, first of all, we counter those lies. And one thing that I'm not shy of doing is calling out Donald Trump and his lies and his nonsense. And we need fighters like that in Washington who are going to look him in the eye and tell him that what he is saying is simply not true, and then make sure that the truth gets told to the people that we represent. So I would make sure that I fight for the things that we have already done here in Illinois. I will work hard to pass and make sure I vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to make sure that we can expand access to voting. And let me tell you one quick story. My father marched from Selma to Montgomery. He knew back in 1965 how important it was to get up and do something, to fight for people to have the right to vote. And that's in my DNA. And I look at my father's article that he wrote that's hanging in my office in the Illinois State Capitol that talks about him marching at that time. And he said the reason why he did it was because he didn't like how people were being treated, and he wanted to make sure that he stood up and was counted. That's exactly the kind of leader that I'm going to be, someone who stands up and makes sure that the voices of the people of Illinois gets counted. And I'll do that not only by passing legislation to protect voting rights, but also making sure that we hold all of our systems accountable, especially since they are all under attack right now.
Hey, Miss Malone.
Do I pick another card? Okay. The category is wealth tax and funding public services.
The wealthiest Americans control a disproportionate share of national wealth. Do you support a federal wealth tax on billionaires and millionaires to fund the universal program? If yes, how would you structure it, enforce it, and which of these public services would you be prioritizing first?
Well, thank you for that question, and the answer is yes. I mean, look what just happened in Washington, D.C. over the last few days. We are seeing an attack on working people by the Trump administration and congressional Republicans. We are seeing millions of Americans being stripped of their health care. We are seeing millions of Americans being stripped of SNAP benefits. benefits that will help them put food on the table for themselves and their children. And I will not stand for that. I don't think that we should have a government that is making it harder for working class people and our most vulnerable among us, while it is giving tax breaks to the ultra wealthy. And that's what we are seeing by the Trump administration right now. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and his friends, they're all going to get wealthier with the tax breaks that they just got. What I would like to see is that we have a tax break for middle-class families, and that we pay for it by a tax increase for millionaires and billionaires. So that's the structure that I would see, and I think that that will help us to fund more, not the other way around, which is what this administration is doing. Middle-class families need relief. Things are too expensive. It's too expensive for groceries. Housing is expensive. Everything. It's just hard to take care of your basic everyday needs, and yet, why are we the ones seeing the tax increase? It should be the other way around, and as your next United States Senator, I will stand up and be a voice and fight for the working families of Illinois.
In your opening statement, you talked about one of the reasons that you got involved in government was health insurance and seeing families disproportionately kicked off or therefore the lack thereof. Nearly 30 million Americans lack coverage. Do you support Medicare for all, or would you propose an alternative plan? If you oppose a single-payer system, explain exactly how you would approach or remove the
Moderator.
profits from essential care involved in universal coverage and the cost control measures.
What I want to see is that we make healthcare more accessible and affordable for everyone. Because right now, I'm worried that we're not going to have health care. We've already seen so many people be stripped away of their Medicaid. And if we don't have fighters in Washington who are going to stand up to Donald Trump and be a fighter for the people that they represent, I don't know where this is going to end up. But that's the kind of fighter that I will be. We have already helped reduce medical costs and the cost of insurance right here in Illinois, and you've been a part of that work. We have, if you just saw recently, we have eliminated the work of the pharmacy benefit managers because there was a middle person that was, instead of you just getting the medication that you need, there was a middle person who was coming and making your prescription drugs more expensive. Here in Illinois, we're making the cost of prescription drugs more affordable. We are eliminating medical debt for thousands of, tens of thousands of Illinoisans. For people who can't get ahead, their credit is messed up, they can't get it impacts their job and so much more because they have medical debt. But people should not be punished because they broke their leg or because some other medical issue happened to their child. And so we are eliminating medical debt, again, making life more affordable. And through the Health Care Protection Act, which we passed in our administration, we are making health care more affordable. I don't know if you all have ever heard of something called step therapy. Have you heard of that concept? Step therapy means that when your doctor tells you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this treatment, and this is going to help you feel better. Step therapy said, no, we're going to start with this. I don't care. The insurance company comes in and says, start with this first. I know your doctor said that, but I want you to start with plan A. Oh, plan A fails, let's try plan B. Plan B fails, let's go to C. Meanwhile, guess what? You have no relief. So we eliminated the step therapy. And I know that Senator Robert Peters is here today. He was one of the chief sponsors of that legislation. You'll hear from him later. But that's the work that we have done in Illinois to make sure that it's not insurance companies that are just getting rich, but that when you have a need, a medical need, you work with your doctor. Because it should be between you and your doctor and not an insurance company to tell you what kind of care you need.
Got a couple more questions for you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Housing rights and tenant protections. Housing affordability is a crisis, especially here in Illinois. Do you support national rent control, tenant bill of rights, and large public housing investments, or would you back a federal funding for community land trust or housing co-ops to reduce displacement? And if so, how would you implement that to scale?
Well, I think what I would do is I would want to hear from the communities like the ones, like those of you here today, around what is the best solution for your community. There are going to be so many plans, but one thing we know, housing is not, there's not enough housing. There's not enough affordable housing, and that people cannot afford to get homes. I have 4 daughters, and my daughters, 3 of them are adults, and they're constantly asking the question about whether they are going to ever be able to buy a home or buy a condo. That is a typical conversation that so many people are having. And we have to have a real conversation and a plan. But what I don't want to do is not ask what is the need of a particular community, because communities have different needs. What your community looks like, what the feel of the community is, where housing should be, how you spur economic growth, which I know is so important for the Southland, and what kind of housing patterns go along with that. All of that is important. So I would want to make sure that we are including the voices of the people that I'm representing, and making sure that we look at the differences between, because I chair the Rural Affairs Council for our administration, housing needs in rural communities where there are so many older homes and we can't get a lot of young people to move into those communities versus what you might see in a dense area. So we have to look at solutions that include the unique needs of each of the communities. And I want to take your voices with me to Washington, D.C., and we will work on those solutions together.
One of the hot topics of the moment, and has been so over the last few years, has been immigration. What's your stance on a plan for immigration as opposed to what's currently going on at the federal level?
First of all, Illinois follows the law, and Illinois follows the Constitution. And so when we talk about immigration, what we are seeing right now is people being snatched off the streets by people who have masks. We cannot see their faces. They're being put into cars that don't have any markings on them, and there's no due process. And I believe in following the Constitution, and I believe in the right to due process, and that's what we have always fought for here in Illinois. Now, let me be clear. If there is someone who is convicted of a violent crime or a threat to public safety, from that standpoint, convicted of a violent crime, we would work with our federal partners to make sure that they are removed. Because somebody who is a threat to public safety and convicted of a violent crime, we would want to see that happen. But I'm not talking about what we are seeing. That's not what we're seeing right now. We are seeing neighbors, people who have been here for a number of years, who are working, taking care of their children. They are our neighbors. They're people that we see all the time being ripped away, stuffed into cars, and that is not following the Constitution. And to me, Donald Trump and congressional Republicans are getting to a place where they are overlooking our Constitution. They're stomping on our Constitution. And I don't think that it's right. And we have to recognize that we have to follow the Constitution. We all just celebrated the 4th of July and recognize how fragile our democracy can be when we decide that we're going to overlook what the law is. And if you do it for one group, you're going to do it for another group as well. And I just need to say that. So what I would like to see in terms of immigration is I want to see a real path to citizenship. There are people who have been here for a number of years. There should be a path to citizenship and the resources that are necessary to allow for that. We do need to make sure that we have a secure border, but we also need to make sure that for asylum seekers, that there is a path to due process to process those claims. And like I said, the resources to make sure that it can happen. And then when it comes to enforcement, we should not be using any of our enforcement dollars to attack our neighbors and the people that we live alongside of, that we have known all our lives and have lived in our communities. The enforcement dollars should focus again on a threat to public safety, because public safety must always be highest priority.
This is my final question before we close the statements. With the federal government being so polarizing, and with the president having both chambers, the Senate and the House, what does your candidacy, or you being a U.S. Senator, how does that influence or affect change that Thornton Township is looking for at the federal level?
First of all, it's not going to be easy. But I didn't run because I was looking for something that was easy. I'm running because when I woke up the day after Election Day in November, I have a little one. She's 9 years old, and when she woke up, she was in tears when we told her the outcome of the election. And I knew that we had to step up and do something and fight back. Now, there were a lot of people who kind of said, I don't know, this took something out of me, and I'm not sure what I can do if I have any more left in me. But what I knew that it wasn't just about us. It's about our children and our children's children, and if we don't fight back right now against what's happening and this chaos in Washington, D.C., then what's going to be left of our democracy in our country? What's going to be left of our rights? So, how will I handle things in Washington, D.C.? The way that I have as your lieutenant governor, the way that I did when I was a state representative, the way that I handled things when I was a local school council rep at a Chicago public school on the south side of Chicago. I will do it, number one, by centering the people that I'm supposed to be representing. That you don't run for this kind of office because you want a title or because you think it's something cool to do. You do it because you're ready to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work of representing people and their interests. The work that we have done here in Illinois has put the people right in the center. The second thing I will do, and somebody asked me tonight, will you fight? I will be a fighter. When I go around this state, there is one thing that people look me in the eye when I say, what's your key issue? They say, number one, I want someone to stand up and fight. Because the old playbook in Washington is no longer working. We need new ideas, we need fresh perspectives, and we need somebody who's going to go toe-to-toe, and I will go to the mat fighting for each and every one of you. And the third thing that I will say is that we have a blueprint right here in Illinois in terms of how to get things done. And so I don't go to Washington not with ideas and not with the ability to get things done, because we got it done right here. And I want to bring that same fight and that same ability to get things done to Washington. Now, I'll tell you this as I close. I'm a lawyer, and for 20 years, I did mediation. That means I brought people to a table just like this. People who were on opposite ends, they were in conflict, they did not agree, and I brought them to a table just like this and said, let's work on trying to find a resolution. So I will always work to find the best solution for the people, no matter what it is, no matter where the idea comes from. But I will never compromise my values. And I think that's what we as Illinoisans always know. We have strong values, family values, community values, and I am not going to compromise those values for anyone. I'll do what's best for you as the people of Illinois.
Yeah.
That wasn't my closing. 2 minutes, all right. I just want to say thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you about my campaign. This is not going to be easy. It is going to be a lot of hard work, but I am ready to do that work. I am ready to roll up my sleeves and humbly work hard to earn your support. For those of you who have already expressed your support, thank you. It means the world to me. But to those of you who are still deciding, just know I'm going to work hard. And this will not be the last time that we talk to each other, because I see this as an ongoing relationship, and that's how it should be with your elected officials. And so I look forward to working hard every day on the campaign trail. I know that we can win this. I can win this race, but I cannot do it without your support. I'm Juliana Stratton. I'm running for United States Senate, and I humbly ask for your support. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, we gotta keep a list. That's right. I don't even know if the lady made it when I invited. No, yeah, she had blonde hair. Short blonde hair, afro.
What happened to him here?
And he came. This is probably not the one for this question about the streets.
So next up, we have more candidates for Senate. Congressman Roger Kristen Murphy. We also have Mr. Anthony Williams.
Yeah.
So once again, these are the declared candidates running for United States Senate. At the time, the two governors represented, I didn't know that anyone else was here at the moment. So the structure is, we're going to have 3-minute opening remarks, introduction, and then we're going to select from the card, topic, and then we'll ask a Q&A, and you have 2 minutes for it. This is not, like I said before, you guys wasn't here, this is an opportunity to just have dialogue with the community. This is not an endorsement session, it's more so an information, informative. So at this time, we're going to have Congressman Raja give an opening statement, and then we'll go to Mr. Williams for his opening statement, and then you select card and we'll ask a question.
Good morning, good evening.
Good evening.
And it's an honor to be with you. As I like to say, it's an honor to be any place they can pronounce my name right. It's a true story. When I first ran for office, I said, "Hi, my name is Raja Krishnamurthy." And the person looked right back at me and said, "Roger Christian Murphy. Very nice to meet you." In any case, I want to just say thank you to Senator Harris for having us today. Give him a big round of applause for everything that he does every day. And he has a mean golf game as well, as I recently learned. So congratulations. And I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for coming out. Look, I'll just tell you a little bit about my background and then why am I here. My background is, I was born in India, came to this country when I was 3 months old. Things were going great until suddenly the recession of 1973 hit us really hard. And at that time, my father lost his income. But thanks to the generosity of the American people, we were allowed to move into public housing and food stamps. So I spent about half of my early childhood in those 2 life-sustaining programs. And my father was able to get back on his feet and then find a great job in, of all places, Peoria, Illinois. And so that's where we entered the middle class, and pretty much every night at the dinner table, my father would say something along the lines of, think of the greatness of this country, and whatever you do to my brother and me, just make sure this country is there for the next families who need it. That became my North Star. And so fast forward through college and law school, coming back and working in the public and private sectors in Illinois, I got elected to this position, and 5 terms later, that mission statement assigned to me by my parents has become the mission statement of my office. Make sure this country is there for the next families who need it. Period, end of story. That's what I believe is my why, my purpose on earth, and I think that's also what motivates me to run for the U.S. Senate. I believe right now, especially now, during the economic chaos that Donald Trump has unleashed, we're kind of in a moment where, unfortunately, the question that's before us is, do we want a government that's there fighting for those who are trying to make it, or a government that's there catering to those who have it made? I believe we always want a government that's fighting for those who are fighting to make it. That's my story, and I believe the American dream needs to be accessible to everybody. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Anthony W. Williams, and I am a native of the state of Illinois, raised in Chicago, a 30-year resident of Thornton, Illinois, of the Township. Somebody asked me, why do you want to run for United States Senate? I said, to do good. And they paused. As a citizen, I'm a pastor of the United Church of Christ. I'm an elected trustee at the South Suburban College. Let me share it with you. You know you don't get paid for that. See, you got to get elected, y'all. 6 years, you don't get paid for that. What kind of person did they tell you that I am? April 27th, I introduced Governor J.B. Prescott to sign the Illinois Health Reform Bill. My son got killed. I knew that we had to address the number one issue of the 21st century, and that's violence. The number one issue of the 21st century is not the economy, it's not Donald Trump, it's the disease of violence. Somebody has to address it, you all. It's a disease, infectious but not contagious. It has to be addressed by the process of civility. You can say whatever you want, we're in troubled times, but I'm saying, don't you get weary. I have a history of fighting and being on the right side of history. You can Google me up. If you all, this race is in your hands. It's an open race. And it's about who's going to help you and your family eat. Do you want what's best for your family, y'all?
Yes.
I want to talk about the Illinois Best Plan. The best educational system in the world, the best transportation system in the world, the best healthcare system in the world. I want the best for you all and for this state. We are blessed to be in a great blue state like Illinois. And so I represent something different. I'm not a part of the status quo. And so that's my background. I have a history of service, not just showing up and talking good, but working every day for free, you all. So this is going to be a great debate, but I tell you, I'm a little bit, and wouldn't it be something, you got a pope from Thornton Township, wouldn't you have a senator from Thornton Township? Great day, thank you.
That was funny. I wish they turned the air on. I'm hot. I got a hot, so you know, to be old, you can't be walking around with no bra on and everything else, so you better wear a jacket.
Excuse me, folks, I got to answer this supervisor. This says Green New Deal and just trying.
So the question is, do you fully support the Green New Deal framework and what specific policies?
must already have these questions written down.
Green jobs.
I want to get these cards out for.
First of all, I support it wholeheartedly because of the fact that we've got to realize that the environment is being destroyed every day. And there are technologies out there, some that I'm not aware of, some that I am aware of. And so I support it wholeheartedly.
I couldn't find it. No, Cheryl, they were asking. They do sell halter bras. I said I couldn't find one at home. I got it at home. I couldn't find it.
The question is, corporations wield systemic influence in our economy and politics.
I wasn't born with it.
Legislation would you sponsor to break up monopolies, limit corporate political spending, and foster public or cooperative ownership in critical sectors like housing, healthcare, or energy?
Thank you. This has kind of been my career, defined my career in Congress, which is taking on bad corporate actors and corporate bullies. I led the investigations into Juul and e-cigarette companies for preying on our youth and hooking them onto vapes. I went after food conglomerates that basically poison our baby food with toxic heavy metals. I went after Johnson & Johnson,
Can you tell us about
which
that lead in the
sells
water?
carcinogenic, cancer-causing baby powder, mainly targeted at black and brown people. I went after all of these corporate bullies, and I won. Held them accountable. Now I have to go after the biggest bully of them all, and that's Donald Trump. We cannot be in a situation where people are unaccountable. And that includes big tech and other industries where there's tremendous market consolidation, where there's so few competitors, they're able to hike the prices at will.
You know he's an attorney.
And one of them, by the
Because he
way,
stands up and talks.
is retail grocery chains. Am I right about that? They have a stranglehold on the food supply chain. I went after the most recent merger that was about to happen in the industry. And I won, and that's why I won the endorsement of UFCW 881, the Food and Commercial Workers Union. Why? Because they can't even afford the food that they stock on the shelves in the grocery stores. That's why the 34,000 strong union endorsed me. We have to go after corporate monopolies, introduce more competition. Why? You get more small businesses playing on the playing field. When you have more choices, you have higher quality and lower prices. That's true for housing, that's true for food, that's true for tech, that's true about all industries.
Mr. Williams, your question is concerning public safety. In light of ongoing calls for public safety reform, will you support federal divestment from traditional policing, redirecting funds towards mental health, community-led violence prevention, and restorative justice programs? And what legislative steps will you take to enact that change?
I want to go back, Mr. Supervisor, so everybody can really hear me. What does the word violence mean? To violate. The word violence means to violate. One of the key reasons why I'm in this race is to address this disease of violence, you all. The biggest violators on Pennsylvania Avenue right now, am I correct? Understand what that word means, violence. I keep saying it, and I will get on the top of a mountain and say to every citizen, if we don't address this issue of violence correctly, we're done. That's our purpose. You got to educate people what this is. You got to educate. You got to work towards collaboration. You got to work towards civility, and you've got to deal with the public policy and redirect the funding. Right now, we just don't know because everything is uncertain. But I will tell you this from personal experience and pain. If we know how to address the issue of violence right now, you're done because no one is safe. Violence means divided. Racism is violence. Economic suppression is violence. Political violence. It's all the same thing. So we've got to address this disease right now because America is falling. But I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm in this race to say to you and I, you don't want the pain of losing a loved one, do you? It don't feel good when somebody broke your child's brains out, yo. That's public safety.
Make it stronger.
The next question is for you, Congressman Christopher. The Supreme Court's recent decision have weakened federal voting protections. Will you support federal legislation to guarantee things like same-day registration, automatic voter registration, and vote by mail? And will you advocate for structural reforms, i.e. filibuster changes and court expansions necessary to make the legislation possible?
I'm the prime sponsor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. This must become the law of the land. This would require broad acceptance of absentee ballots, allow for election day to be a holiday, a national holiday, so people don't have to take time off of work to vote. It would also allow for, finally, us to be able to see the finances through disclosure rules of all presidential candidates, which doesn't necessarily exist today. And so this particular bill needs to become legislation. We called it H.R. 1 because it's the #1 most important bill that we should pass in Congress. John Lewis happened to be a friend and a mentor to me and a hero. And so if we could even just pass that, it would be one of the defining kind of great pieces of legacy for the civil rights giant. With regard to other issues, I personally think that we have to do everything we can to make voting easier, not harder. There's a case called Shelby versus Holder during the Obama administration, which reversed voting rights protections in the former states of the Confederacy. We must reverse those reversals. We have to go forward, because if we don't change what's not working, it's going to remain broken. Thank you.
Time. Next question for you, Pastor. Leadership style and movement building. Illinois has seen Senator Durbin's governance style firsthand. If elected, how would you approach or defer in terms of coalition building, progressive leadership, and institutional change? And what lasting structural outcome would you strive to achieve? For example, do you see yourself providing a new healthcare model, or voting access, or a new policy that, to the likes of having been pushed aggressively to your life, that reflects your core political values?
Our campaign is not built around Anthony Williams. We have a title we're working for. It's called Power to the People. That's our campaign slogan.
PTP.
Power to the people.
Oh, man.
It means solidarity. It means working with everybody. That's my history of coalition building. My thing is to stay on the right side of history. And we need to, have you ever been to East St. Louis, y'all? Have you ever been to East St. Louis? That's what Durban for. It don't look good down in East St. Louis. I was in East St. Louis, they tell me, they rob churches down here every Sunday. That's East St. Louis. It is to bring prosperity to the state of Illinois, and particularly to Thornton Township. You think I'm gonna keep letting Harvey look the way it looks? Harvey look the way it looks. You've got to bring people up with you. It's not about an individual. It's about you all. If you ain't eating, I ain't eating. If they repossessing your car, they repossessing my car. If you go in your refrigerator, ain't nothing in my refrigerator, you all.
got food in your
When you see a
refrigerator.
young mother that's struggling, standing on the corner with 3 children trying to make it, I'm in pain too. So when the tides rise, all ships rise. And believe me, as a civilian, I put hundreds and hundreds of people to work. I know my body of work speaks to itself. Send somebody there with a new spirit and new energy. Not the same old tired rhetoric, y'all. America's changing, and if Rome falls, you had to survive. It's about our survival right now. Do you want somebody going there playing the same old game, or do you want somebody that's going to speak the power that you want to hear? So our campaign is about building everybody. All 4 corners of the state we're covering, and we're talking to the people in Peatone, where they should never build an airport. Power to the people. That's our campaign slogan.
P2P. That's the pastor.
The final question is for both of you guys before you go to your final, before you go to your close. With the national topic and rhetoric surrounding immigration, how would you guys defer your immigration policy and what's currently going on at the federal level, and how does that influence your local and Thornton Township?
I didn't hear.
First of all, I don't think anybody in this room disagrees that we should have a secure border and a working legal immigration system. However, when an ICE agency sends out hundreds, if not thousands of text messages to residents throughout the Chicago area telling them to check in to their ICE facility in the South Loop, and these people report downtown on Father's Day to check in, and then they get snatched away from their families without any counsel, and their families have no idea where they've gone. That's not America. That's not a government that is working for the people. It's a government that's out of control. When my office and others contacted our government to try to figure out what happened at these ICE facilities, they didn't respond. Congressman Jonathan Jackson and myself went straight to that ICE facility, knocked on the door, they wouldn't let us in. We kept knocking. They finally let us in, and we were met with a masked ICE agent. The masked ICE agent refused to provide his identification, refused to show his identity, refused to answer any questions, and then he called the CPD to evict us as trespassers. That is a government out of control. Right now, we have a situation where, unfortunately, the Trump administration is acting with impunity. And when people act with impunity, bad things happen. Today, they're coming for migrants. Tomorrow, they're coming for legal immigrants. And the next day, they'll be coming for you.
For what?
And for me.
We don't figure.
Thank you.
Same question, immigration policy.
You need to go on TikTok.
Everybody should know it's a broken system. It's a broken system. It's been broken for a while. But yet I know and I'm optimistic that it can be repaired. It's very painful to see people snatched off the streets. Where I pastor at Windsor Park Lutheran Church at 76 and Saginaw, that's a multicultural community. So we have people from all over Central America, they're there, they're in the food lines. And I talk to them, why you come to America? They say, man, because it's too violent down there, man. It's too violent in Venezuela, it's too violent in Nicaragua. We came there because it's so violent there. That's why they have them say, we came because it's so violent. And so, you know, I don't have a magic wand for that. I do support the fact that the system has to be repaired because the system's been breached, and because of the violator who is now the executive director. I hope and pray that our good congressmen and others will continue to work to bring forth issues, but I support the right of people to come into this country legally.
All
Mr.
right.
Green, we have 2 minutes to close, and then after that, Congressman Christian Moore close. 2 minutes to close.
Let me, with humility, thank you all. You know, I'm a senior citizen too, I want you to know that.
Oh,
And
so you don't look the
when they
same.
got to playing around with them Social Security checks, that bothered me. I wanted my check. And then that little picture, I wanted that too. It's you all's call. What do you all want? Take this senatorial race very seriously. What do you want? Do you want to have somebody that has your best interest? Do you want somebody that if you call them, you'll get a return call? What kind of person do you want? Do you want a servant to serve you? Or do you want the status quo to serve you? It's your call. Because all of our lives are at stake. They're not playing with us. Right now it's uncertain out here. It's unstable out here. And I would encourage all of you all with good sense. Send somebody there that's got the guts to stand for you. Send somebody there that has the track record in the background to say, I'm standing for you, not for graft, not for greed, not for prestige. As America is falling apart, what you gonna do? All of us do our part. God bless you. Thank you.
Congressman Christian Moore, close.
What time is
Thank you
it?
so much for your attention. Look, I think that right now, people are hurting. People are hurting. Whether you're working poor, whether you're middle class, whether you're growing a business, you saw what Donald Trump calls the big beautiful bill. I call the large lousy law. It's about to wreak havoc on America and on Thornton Township and in Illinois. 17 million people are about to lose their health insurance. 200,000 people in Illinois alone are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And as a child of food stamps and public housing, that's personal to me. On top of that, people are going to lose their educational assistance. They're going to lose their housing assistance.
real?
And for what purpose? It's to fund tax cuts for the wealthiest among us. And to add insult to injury, one of the most outrageous tax breaks in the large lousy law was this. They're going to exempt silencers from taxes. They're giving tax breaks to murderers and assassins, and they're cutting you and me and others off vital
Next year,
social safety
2026
net
is the
programs.
governor's race.
That's wrong. That's un-American. That's not who we are. So the question is this: what kind of a country do we want to be? What kind of a future do we want for our children? Because if you're like me, the one thing you want in life, I have 3 kids, a 20, a 16, and a 9 with my beautiful wife, Priya.
Got a baby.
The one thing you want in life is you want your kids to do a little better than you did. Am I right about that?
That's
You
right.
want them to have a brighter future than you. And right now, we're going the opposite direction in this country. As a child, I don't know why I got the breaks my family got the breaks. I won the parent lottery, and I'm standing before you as a U.S. Congressman.
What's his name?
But there, but the grace of God go on.
Come on now.
And now we have to make sure that all of us put ourselves in the position of those who are the least of us, and make sure that if we were in their position, this government would treat them the way we would want to be treated. In putting the golden rule into law. That's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I hope to have your support. Thank you so much.
That was so good. I'm confused. Now, what's his name?
Give Ron a applause.
Roger Christian.
Did y'all hear it? Roger?
Roger Christian Murphy. Roger Christian Murphy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I know that was long, right? It was late. About that. Anyway, we're gonna have our second congressional candidates come up to the table, please. Second congressional candidates come up to the table.
I'm down.
Put that crap out. Say this like, I remember his name, Robert.
Oh, Robert Penn.
Robert something.
Okay, we're gonna go down the list. We're gonna start from my left to right. We're gonna go introduction. We're gonna have a 3-minute intro. And then after the 3-minute intro, we have cards. They're gonna be turned upside down. Just pick a card. That's gonna be one of the questions that's gonna get asked. We'll go down the list. And at the finale of it, we'll give you 2 minutes to close. All right. So we'll first start to my left, Senator Robert Peters.
Thank you, Senator. I'm State Senator Robert Peters of the 13th District. I'm also running for Congress. I'm running because Donald Trump and Republicans are taking an axe to our government and our well-being. And this axe is very personal to me. I was born in '85. My biological mom was addicted to heroin and drugs. I was born deaf and I had a speech impediment. Because of our system of child welfare, I was forced into adoption. And I was adopted by a civil rights lawyer for a dad who got 2 people off death row who were wrongly convicted. And I grew up struggling. I wasn't able to hear until I was 6 and fully able to speak until I was 12. There were people who told my parents they should have never adopted me. The fact is, we live in a world where people are constantly tossed to the side, thrown to the side, pushed to the brink. We see it so that people feel like they're increasingly isolated. As they're going through struggle, they try to go through it themselves. But what helped me get through and what helped so many get through is an investment in community. It's breaking that isolation. It's understanding what it means to have each other's backs. Fundamentally, what we need is not people who are going to just fight Donald Trump and say they're going to fight it. They need to have a vision for what this country should look like. We need people who understand that you have to give people good health care. You have to give people a good job. You have to give people good housing. You have to give people a sense of a community. In the Bible it says, without a vision, the people will perish. It is important for us as Democrats to provide a vision that looks out for the working people, particularly in the 2nd Congressional. This bill by Donald Trump is an utter disaster and disgrace. 30 to 40,000 people in the 2nd Congressional are going to lose their health care. 30 to 40,000 people are going to lose their SNAP benefits. 20,000 clean energy jobs could go away. Mortgages could go up by $1,000. This bill is an attack on all of us. It's an attack on our ability to live. And we need people in this party who understand what pain looks like and how they turn that pain into purpose and how they turn that purpose into power and how that power needs to benefit each and every one of us. We have too many politicians who focus on talking points and not policy. We have to have action. As a state senator, I've passed over 120 bills, working with Senator Harris on some of those bills, including the Illinois Healthcare Protection Act. As you heard from Lieutenant Governor Stratton, getting rid of step therapy, which is fail first policy, so that people have an easier time getting health care. I have worked to try to change our property tax system so that anybody who's stuck in the tax sales system doesn't lose their home, that they can get on a payment plan so they can keep their home and they can transfer it to the next generation. We are in the fight of our lives, and it's not enough for us just to be rooted in the idea of talking points and pulling. We need to be rooted in a sense of community. That's why I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Next up is Jeremy Young.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, I'm Jeremy Young. I'm running for Congress 2nd District 1. I was born and raised in the 2nd District of Illinois, Allville Gardens, if y'all know what it is. I'm a legacy of advocacy through my grandmother, Carol D. Parker. She has a street named after her also in Allville. And I hear those claps, yeah. Also, I'm running because I feel like the people want something different. I feel like we deserve people in office that's going to have an open government, that's going to listen to the people, that's going to consider the perils of the people as well. And I'm uniquely in this space because I not only grew up in Allgale, but I also worked in the 2nd District in Cook County as well. So I'm not telling you something I heard when I say I want to give homeowners relief on their taxes. Either we have to advocate for that in DC, or we got to reallocate money from the budget. Older adults should not lose their homes because they can't afford their taxes. You know, and I think that's something we have to take seriously and we have to address. Also, I'm an advocate for youth violence. I created something called the Solution Summit, where we listen to the young people and see what their solutions to violence are. They should be at the table. You know, and they are the bedrock of our community. They're the future. So I do call myself a youth advocate, and then graduated to a people's advocate, just about the work I've been doing as of lately. But I'm running to give the people a voice. I'm running to give everyday people a lean into DC, and I'm going to listen to your voices. Thank you.
Next we have Commissioner Unica Barnes.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Commissioner.
Good evening, everyone.
all I
I
have.
am Commissioner Yamika Brown,
Oh,
and
Yamika.
I am running to fight and protect and defend the 2nd Congressional District here. I've spent my entire life living in this district. I was raised in Roseland, and I was later rooted my family in the south suburbs in the 2nd Congressional District. And now more than ever, our community needs care and concern in Washington, D.C. And I know firsthand what that looks like. What brought me to this seat is that it came knocking at my door. I did not have the audacity to run, but I knew if it wasn't me, then who? When about 7 years ago, my son contracted an environmental illness that nearly took his life. And that's what really propelled me to run for office. It was blastomycosis, something that most of us can't pronounce, but when we see these things come into our communities, we know that we have to fight. So that propelled me to run for the Water Reclamation District, which I have been there for 3 years, fighting for environmental justice, independently and just unbought, unbiased, and just really wanted to make a difference in our communities. Because when you want to do the right thing, it is not easy. And so when you want to run for Congress, that is not easy either. But I'm here standing tall because I know that we need someone that's going to fight for this district, who understands this district, and who does not come into this district when it's an open opportunity. So I'm here to fight for this district. I'm here to fight for Medicaid, Medicare. I'm here to fight for SNAP. Because once upon a time, my family, we have been on those social services, and I know how important it is. Many say that those are just opportunities because people don't want to work, but everyone isn't afforded the same opportunities. This big ugly bill says that you have to work 80 hours per month in order to be entitled to some of these resources. But where are the jobs? Where are people going to get the opportunities to stand up and protect and defend their families, to feed their kids? So that's why I'm running, because you can put these things into policies, you can have all the policies you want, but you also need to have an understanding of what this community looks like. You need to have lived experiences from the 90s to the war on drugs to the present day. Some of the things are still the exact same. And we need change in this community. We need change in the state of Illinois, and I'm here to fight for that each and every day. Thank you.
Why not? Why?
Pull the card. I'm going to ask the audience to please hold the applause. Like I said, this is informative. We just want to give everybody respect and opportunity so they can be heard. Please hold your applause. Candidates answer the questions for you. Thank you.
Can't
My
applause
versus
here.
Democracy under threat.
Can't clap.
Given the ongoing efforts to undermine trust in elections, what concrete mechanism, not simply statements of support, would you sponsor or vote for to ensure independent election administration, protect poll workers, and hold accountable all those who spread disinformation about voting outcomes? How would you measure whether your efforts are succeeding?
Yeah, that's a big question. So currently we have an administration that obviously has involvement with January 6th, has spread disinformation around the 2020 election, and continues to spread disinformation about our democracy. In fact, I remember when I was working as a state senator, working on a few bills, Tucker Carlson, for example, attacked me, led to a bunch of death threats, calls from Texas, saying that I should get lynched, and that my family should meet him outside, and it was very frightening. And we live in this political environment where people are weaponizing violence against elected officials and against the community. And as we saw in Minnesota, that violence carried over to something very, very deadly. And so to me, what we need to do is we need to codify election rules on a national level. Okay, we have state-by-state bases that have different practices. So what you'll see in elections, sometimes Arizona will go different than Florida, will go different than Illinois. We need to at least codify some of our elections nationally so that we can at least protect our election integrity. When it comes to things around false information and people trying to undermine our electoral process, well, in Brazil, when their president did that, he was sent to jail. Donald Trump, on the other hand, got back in the White House. That is a problem, and that cannot happen again. If someone is going to invade our Capitol and bring the traitor's Confederate flag on the Capitol floor, they have no place in our democracy because they lost that war. And to me, it's disgusting that that is back into a position of power. And so fundamentally, we need to strengthen our election protection on a national level, and we need to have a system that's going to hold people accountable when they try to undermine our elections. Whether that's through the AG, whether that's through policy, it needs to be through both in terms of the enforcement, and it needs to happen because that is a dangerous risk to our democracy. And so, I mean, having worked on some of these issues before, I was with Chicago Votes, we've seen an expansion in terms of blue states doing more to expand electoral rights. But the problem is, it can't just be blue states. It has to be the entire country. And that is something that I'm more than willing to fight for because I fought for as an organizer, I fought for as a state senator, and I'll fight for that in Congress. Thank you.
It's hot in here.
Yes, it says federal investment in community-based safety.
Over the last decade, federal funds have supported local policing, but far less funding has gone to evidence-based community violence prevention. What specific federal investments or legislation would you introduce to shift the funding from punitive systems to community-led safety models in the second district? And how would you track the outcomes to ensure that there's transparency to the constituents?
Awesome question. One, I do agree with community safety as far as, I don't want to use like trigger words, but we should put more money into things like mental health services. We should put more money into organizations that invest in community safety, and also things for young people to do. You know, I think that we have to get serious about what engages them and listen to them when they say, this is what we want to see in our community. So just like when I did Solution Summit, we have all these things that the city or the county will line out and say, hey, these are the things you should do. But a lot of young people don't want to do those things. And rarely are they at the table. So I propose we bring young people to the table, one, to see what they want to see in their own communities. If it's jobs, we create jobs. I think the young people are old enough to tell us and say, hey, I want to see this happen so I can be a part of it. So just like we did when I did Solution Summit, we go into the high schools and things like that and have a panel of young people. And on that panel, we would listen. They would tell us what they see, the needs in their community. A lot of times we say, let's stop the violence, for instance. Can't stop the violence without them because they feel like they are not protected. You know, they're the ones that's going throughout the streets and they're the ones that have to catch the bus through different neighborhoods. So it's important for us to listen to it. So overall, I will look into mental health spaces and I will put more funding into opportunities for them.
Closing racial wealth gaps.
Research shows that the median wealth of black families is a fraction of what it is to white families. A gap particularly stark across the communities in the 2nd Congressional District. What specific tax policies, asset building programs, or reparative measures would you use to advance to close the racial wealth disparities? And what timeline would you issue for demonstrating these measurable progress? Thank you.
That's a wonderful question. In the 2nd Congressional District, we know, and it is a fact, that the annual household income is much lower than the rest of the state. And so I believe that it's really important to create economic development in our community so that we can provide jobs and resources. We need more public safety so that businesses will want to come to our communities. We need more mental health services throughout the community. We also need educational systems where we can teach our kids to learn and grow, to look for some of these opportunities that currently exist. So those are some of the things that I would do. I would bring federal dollars back to IL2 so that we can create these resources for the community as well as the families, the kids, the seniors that live and reside within this community. Economic development, environmental justice, it should not be based upon your zip code. This should be fair and this should be accessible to everyone, regardless of where you live. And so that's something that I've been fighting for in my current capacity, and that's something that I will continue to fight for because it is very important. I believe that when you go to Washington, D.C., you need bold leadership. You need to be someone that's going to fight against broken systems, and even if that means that you're going to be in that role for 2 years, at least you can be as productive as you can be within that time, instead of coming back to say, hey, I want another term, and you have done nothing for the people in IL2. So when I go to Washington, D.C., I'm going to fight for this community like I fight for everything else. As a former basketball player, I'm going to leave everything on the court to make sure that I bring resources and dollars back to IL2. Thank you.
This question is for Senator Peters.
What time is it?
Many proposals focus on expanding insurance coverage, but access to care and health outcomes remain unequal. What reforms would you push beyond insurance expansion to ensure hospital systems, clinics, and providers deliver equitable, culturally competent care? And how would you ensure that healthcare systems in this district are held accountable for addressing disparities in maternal mortality and chronic disease?
Yeah, so, I mean, the first thing I'll say is we need a universal health system. I fundamentally believe that when we talk about public safety, it's often treated like it's rocket science. It's pretty simple. You give people good health care, you give people a good job, you give people good housing, you give people an ability to get from point A to point B, you give people good life, you give people power. That is the safety that we need. And so when I think about healthcare, the first thing is we need to have a universal healthcare system. We need to know that nobody is going to have to ever worry about whether they should go to a hospital or not because they can't afford it. On top of that, as a state senator and as chair of the Senate Black Caucus, I've worked with colleagues to invest millions in making sure that we can protect our safety net hospitals. We need to keep our safety net institutions open. In fact, this bill by Donald Trump and Republicans could close 2 hospitals in our backyards. At the same time, we need to make sure that people are actually getting the care that they need at those hospitals. That it's not going to be driven by how much money you're going to bring in, but how much care they're going to give to people. So fundamentally, when we create that sense of universal health care, it creates a payment structure that ensures that the hospital is delivering the care necessary to keep people safe and to keep people healthy. And what we also know is that we need to invest in programs. We've seen a massive disinvestment and an attack on DEI. We need more black doctors, more black nurses, and more black administrators. We need people who look like the community, come from the community, who are doing the care. But we can only do that if we're also investing in the education systems that allow that to happen. When you think about right now, if you go to become a doctor, you're talking about working 80 hours for very little pay. Right now, the highest rate of suicide is a resident, a physician resident. That's higher than almost any other job. And that is an immense pressure. Now add on top of that you're black and working class and you're in that dynamic. We need to ease those pressures, advance the talent pool, put more money into the system, and make sure that nobody ever has to worry about their health care. Thank you.
The next question is for Mr. Young. Steel, logistics, and heavy manufacturing have been pillars of employment in parts of this district, yet also major sources of pollution. What detailed policy or approach would you take to advocate for the transition of these industries toward a lower emissions while guaranteeing that no worker is left behind without income or retainers?
Yeah, awesome question. One of my pillars is clean energy, but also that those things will create jobs. But two, growing up in Allgill, they call that the toxic donut. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that terminology, but that's what drives one of my pillars as far as environmental justice and actually investing in that clean energy. So I'm open to bringing more clean energy jobs to Illinois and investing in them. And we have to do something about like the air and the pollution in these neighborhoods, especially specific to Second District, is nationwide known for environmental racism. So I want to make sure we invest in clean energy and bring jobs at the same time.
Next question. Next question is for Ms. Brown, Commissioner Brown. Communities such as Harvey, Dalton, Chicago Heights, and Lansing has faced decades of disinvestment, population loss, and eroding tax bases. What specific federal funding plan or strategy would you use to help revitalize these communities? And also describe the role that you see local governments and community organizations playing as partners.
Thank you, that's a great question. As you all know, we are the highest tax communities in the state of Illinois. And I believe that comes from accountability. So one of the first things that I would do is to ensure accountability, whether that's on the federal level, the state level, or the local level. Because right now what we're seeing is everyone's pointing fingers and it's whose responsibility is it? So I would want to create legislation to add accountability around who is taxing our communities. I believe that that's very, very important so that people can stay in their homes. People are losing their homes here in IO2 each and every day because they're being taxed out of their homes, and that is unacceptable. So that is some legislation that I would want to create to ensure that people can live healthy, productive lives with the everyday living wage, for the working class family. So that is important, and those are some of the things that I would do. Thank you.
This final question is for all of you, and we're going to let Commissioner Brown start and then go down the line. College enrollment alone has not resolved the income disparities for many residents of the Second Congressional District. What targeted federal initiatives would you sponsor to strengthen the career or technical education, apprenticeships, and union-led training programs? And how would you guarantee that those programs could actually create a pathway to job opportunity in this district?
I believe that you have three pathways. You could go to the military, you could go to college, or you can pick up a trade. And I believe what's really important is to put dollars into our communities where we can ensure that our kids are able to pick up a trade. One of the things that we're doing in the Southland is that we're trying to create a Southland Career Academy or a technical academy where kids can go pick up a trade. Because one of the things that I see when I go to these trades, I don't oftentimes see people that look like me. So I think we have to create opportunities where these opportunities are open to everyone. So I would want to create federal legislation and put federal dollars into the communities so that we can ensure that we give people the access to the trades, whether to college, creating opportunities for that in local junior colleges. I would love to see where tuition could be free. You should be able to go to school in your local community and you can pick up a trade or you can go to a military. There are three pathways and I think we need to start speaking upon those, and we also need to create federal dollars and opportunities for the students and the families in IL2.
I echo most of her points as well. I do believe we should create federal funding for trade programs. It shouldn't just be college. A lot of times what's standing in the gap of success is if you want a real estate license, maybe you don't have the money to get the courses, but we can get federal funding for those things, especially while they're fresh out of high school. That can be eliminating access that they can actually achieve. So create federal funding for trades and making it just as if you go and get a student loan for university, you can go get a student loan for a trade. And we should think about that in a real way. Also thinking about investing back into high school apprenticeships. I think those really gave young people purpose, and that allowed them to walk into their purpose as far as maybe what they want to do and taking steps toward it. Maybe they started in auto tech in high school, but then they go into owning a car shop after high school. So I think those things will help eliminate the disinvestment and making sure that we invest in not only just colleges, but the things they want to see. So if that's college, if it's military, or if that's a trade, we want them to have access to it.
Yeah, so let me first just start off. I remember I walked from college in 2009 without my degree. I was 10 credit hours short. I didn't finish getting my degree until 2023, partially because I lost my dad, and then I lost my mom, and I was just in the workforce. At the same time, I have $70,000 of student debt. That's only going to increase more and more, particularly with this Donald Trump. I don't know if you heard about this bill, but it's pretty bad, right? And so I'm going to literally be stuck with $70,000 of debt. And I remember everybody said, you're not going to go anywhere without a college degree. And it was all about college degree, college excellence. But I was in a situation where I couldn't necessarily afford it, and I had to go on in life and try to work. Having been unemployed twice and trying to finish school, that's almost impossible. You're just trying to get by and get food on the table. And at the same time, when you're trying to get food on the table using government assistance, we make it very hard for poor people to get government assistance, make them go through every hoops and loops and everything that they have to do in order to do so. So therefore, you don't even have enough time to navigate government assistance while you're trying to get a college degree, while you're dealing with $70,000 of debt, while you're dealing with the increase to rent. That's a terrible situation. And so fundamentally, we need to make college more affordable and more accessible to everybody. That has to happen no matter what. On top of that, when we think about trades, it's not just enough to get people in trades. You need to protect trade union jobs. Right now, this bill that passed is 20,000 clean energy union jobs that in this state is designed to go to black folks are literally on the verge of getting cut. So we need to expand the amount of jobs and job opportunities, particularly when it comes to trades. We need to invest to make sure trade schools are not just going to be in certain suburbs, but they're going to be in every community, so that nobody has to worry about whether they can hitchhike to get a ride to be able to go to trade school, that they can actually be able to get there because it's right there in their community, and we need to invest in that. And the last thing I'll say, because I've been rambling and I'm preaching, and I get really angry if you can't tell, is I'll say this: we need to change our labor laws. Right now, it is impossible to organize your workplace, and it's getting harder. Our job is to make it so that's easier. We need to repeal Taft-Hartley to allow that to happen. I'm done. Thank you.
So at this time, we're gonna do our closing. Give you 1 minute. We'll go on this 1 minute.
I'll keep it brief. At the end of the day, we know what our community needs. I've said this over and over again. Good union jobs, good schools invest in education, good health care, making sure we have a transit system so people have an easier time to get to work or get to school, giving people the things that they need to have a roof over their head. And we need people who are going to fight and have a vision for what this country should be for everybody. I'm not just a state senator, I'm a community organizer. I fundamentally believe it is not just to be my job to play hero. I may walk in front of you, but I may not lead. I may not walk behind you, but I may not follow. What I will do is walk side by side with each and every one of you so that we can have the world and the community we deserve. The 2nd Congressional District should be thriving, and that is the job of a member of Congress, to bring the federal dollars home and not just stick to talking points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Napoleon, for offering this, Senator. But closing, I would say, I believe our communities deserve new energy. They deserve people that's going to invest into the community specifically and listen, and not politics as usual. You know, so that's why I'm running for office. That's why, you know, it is a tough thing to get out here to run for office, to come up with the ideas. But I don't want to come up with the ideas by myself. I want you guys to also come and say, hey, this is what our community needs. This is what we want. This is what reflect our values. And I will create the open government that we need in the second congressional district. Also, invest in young people. Like, that's a big pillar of mine as far as safety is concerned. You know, young people is a bedrock of our community, and we need to do something about violence. And I'm a person in the community that cares about the young people. So in all, I want you guys to consider, you know, voting for me, and consider coming along this journey with me. Thank you.
I would like to thank this organization for putting on this forum for us all to share with you why we're running. I am Yamika Brown, and I'm running for Congress because I believe we need bold, action-oriented leadership that I plan to take to Congress. I've spent my entire career in service, whether that was at the Alzheimer's Association fighting with researchers for a cure for Alzheimer's, whether that was at the American Library Association fighting to protect and defend the First Amendment of the Constitution so that books aren't removed from library shelves. Most recently, as Commissioner at MWRD, I have been fighting tirelessly for environmental justice. And those are the things that I plan to continue to fight for in DC. So in March of 2026, I would love to ask you for your support. If you would like to learn more about me, please visit yumikaforcongress.com. Thank you.
We're gonna take a quick 3-minute intermission. I'll be right back.
Okay.
3 minutes.
I didn't think you was coming back. Ooh. Did she? Yeah, hold my phone. Well, I don't know. You can sit in there. Hi, I'm Commissioner Corral from Overland. Nice to meet you. Nice to moderate me.
So I will be speaking, but I was appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court and I'm running to. Oh, okay. About me.
All right, good people, we're ready to get started. Candidates, you can find your seats. Candidates and residents, you can find your seats. If you are a candidate for Cook County Assessor, please come to the front. Residents, can you find your seats? Candidates, can you find your seats? If you are a candidate for Cook County Assessor, please make your way to the front. If you are a candidate for Cook County Assessor, please make your way to the front.
Oh, you know, you.
If you are a
That's
candidate
okay.
for Cook County Assessor, please
The
make
Cook
your
County
way to the front.
Assessor.
If you are a candidate, please find your seat. Residents,
They need to have coffee hour or something. They look like they need a.
I'm finna get the golfer. Antoine been the golfer to go for this and go for that. He should have went for the coffee.
please find your seats.
Yeah.
So we can get started right back with the program. Elected officials, please find your seats.
So you like Twitch, huh?
It's actually easy to work and you can control the
Elected
commercials.
officials, please
I
find your
I
seats.
saw it said go commercial free, but you have to be a subscriber, right? I mean,
No, you have to
monetize.
be, they got 2 levels of payment. So you have to be a partner and able to control the number of commercials. So I can set it for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or I can set it for a minute, or I can set it for 30 seconds of commercial.
Okay.
That's why, you know.
We're ready to
I
start.
dabble with it, but then I be like, oh, this is like too much work. Then I
It's
go
a
back.
lot. It is a lot.
I got my OBS set up and everything. I say, you just gotta use
I
the
just use
system.
StreamYard.
You can use StreamYard.
You can use StreamYard for Twitch.
You didn't have to use OBS?
No.
Okay. Good to know.
If you are a candidate, please find your seat. Residents are ready to start.
Oh, they're cute.
Residents, please find your seat. If you're a candidate for Cook County
Ain't nobody
Assessor,
listening.
please make your way to the
All the
front.
cute. And this is.
If you are a candidate for Cook County Assessor, please make your way to the front.
Nobody can hear.
No, and it's okay. It's okay if they can. It's not a private conversation.
Candidates, please
Right?
find your seats.
So
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I don't like women are being attacked. And especially black women.
If you are a resident, please find your seats. Everybody got to be on
just like I
that
said,
side of the
I
thing.
told
Appreciate
Shelby
it.
on my
Thank you so much.
platform, all of us YouTubers, we are here. We're getting along. We're
Thank you so much, good people.
It's only one person that can't get along with us.
I hate that so much.
So we do ask if you could silence your phone to put them on
That person want to
vibrate.
be the center of attention. This is not something
Just
that you
doing
can
this
do. This
session?
takes a collective effort.
Yes. Yes.
We don't need you to lead us.
Yes, that's true. Okay. That's true.
Yeah, we just want to make space. Thank you so much, good people. Thank you so much, Thornton Township and our residents.
Oh, he said, don't touch me anymore. Okay. Did he
They're
mean?
rather trying to be messy. That's why.
Oh.
They always coming down to the black
I know it's been a long
community to be
night.
messy. They
It's
ain't
been a
never
long
going
night. It's
over there
almost over.
to the Gold Coast.
You guys have
Messy.
been great.
That's
We love
great.
to do these informationals. We love to bring you information and candidates out to our township so that you can get their voices and hear what their policies and psychology is. So without further ado, we will be starting in less than 1 minute. We're going to get right into it. Our next candidates are the assessors for Cook County.
Yeah, property tax ain't no joke.
Good evening.
The next set of candidates are Cook County Assessor.
Speed this up.
We're going to shorten it up a little bit.
Thank you.
Just in the interest of time, because we have to go through as well. So we're going to go through everyone, that'll be 2 minutes for the intro and 1 minute to close. And then we're going to have you choose the card and then pick from that topic, then we'll ask you the questions from that topic. So we'll
What good
start
candy you got?
left to right.
What kind of good candy you got?
Right
Oh, I
there.
want
So we'll start with our first candidate is Dana Pointer.
Everybody with the same shoes. Oh, no. This is it.
Okay, there we go. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you, Senator, and the Democratic Party for allowing me to be here today. My name is Dana Pointer, and I am looking for your support as I run for Cook County Assessor. Currently, I work at the Cook County Board of Review, and I have been the Director of Outreach since 2017, and I also am an analyst. And working out in this area, I've worked with some of you people in this room today, and I've helped as many people as I can at that level, and I think that now I need to go into something else where I can affect more change. There has been a lot of issues with the lack of transparency, late tax bills, issues with properties not being on the tax roll, and those are things that need to change immediately. As the Director of Outreach, one of the things that I've heard from the taxpayers is that every time they call the assessor's office, they can never get a response. They never get an email answer. So those are one of the first things that I want to fix that wouldn't increase the budget or anything, all right? I also want to make sure that the county agencies that deal with the property taxes are working together. There's been a lot of pitting different departments against each other, and we need to work collectively to make sure that we're handling these issues and making sure the tax bases are right. I grew up in Chatham. I grew up on the south side my entire life. I went to Mother Macaulay High School and graduated from Chicago State. I am not a politician, but I am a public servant. And I'm here to serve all of you and to make the process better. I want to make sure that people are staying in their homes. My mother's a senior citizen. She's almost 80 years old.
Wow.
And I want my mother to be able to stay in her home. I want your grandmother to not have to decide whether she's getting groceries or having to pay her tax bill. I want to address the fact that the assessor's office has gotten rid of the zero tax bills for some of our seniors. So those are just a few of the things. I know my time is up. I heard that timer. But again, my name is Dana Pointer, and I thank you all so much for your time.
Dana Pointer.
Next we have up is Mr. Mitra Burris.
Good evening, everyone. Press the button. Good evening. My name is Tamitra Burris, and I'm running for Cook County Assessor, and I want to be your next assessor. I started out right out of law school, starting at the Board of Review as a commercial analyst. Over time, I became Chief Deputy Commissioner, then First Assistant Commissioner, managing all of the operations of a particular district. Through that journey, I have adjudicated thousands of property tax appeals, and I understand what it means to have your assessments too high. Also in my journey, I was appointed Chief Deputy Commissioner, so I am now responsible for the entire operations of the Cook County Board of Review. I understand how to run a county agency. I'm also a lawyer. I understand the property tax code. I understand what it takes in order to reform the system as the person that is representing a county agency for property tax reform. I am running because usually I'm the person that's behind the scenes getting the work done. But right now, this administration has made everyone feel that we need change. You have rising assessments that aren't supported by market value. You have properties that are being, you have residential properties and commercial properties being unfairly pitted against each other. We need to have correct assessments. We need to make sure that we don't have properties off the rolls. We need to have updated characteristics so that people are being assessed correctly. But most importantly, we need accountability. We need accessibility. We need to make sure that we have stable and predictable property tax system so that people, this isn't about home ownership as much as home retention. We need to make sure that property taxes aren't too high so people can stay in their homes. So that is why I'm running to be your next Cook County assessor.
They're all attorneys.
Next up, we have Commissioner Steele.
Well, she's current, ain't she?
Is it working? Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Steele. I am the Board Review Commissioner for the 2nd District. I was first elected a county assessor in 2006. I took office in 2007. I was a 27-year-old single mom. I was the first Democrat elected countywide in Indiana. So it was obviously the worst 4 years of my life. But they taught me that the buck stopped at the assessor's office. They made sure that I learned everything there was to learn about assessing. So for that, I'm grateful. I was the assessor during the last depression, so I know what it takes to keep property owners in their homes. I have a company that teaches assessments across the Midwest. I hold the highest designation in assessing. Under the current administration, we've had chaos, inequitable assessments, and a lack of reliability. I mean, he's not even here tonight, so that says a lot about the current assessor. Recently, I've done had a poll which says that, if elected today, the vote was today, 63% of the taxpayers or voters said that they would not vote for Fritz Pagey to be reelected. So that says a lot, right? And then there are 5 of us, 5 people running for assessor. Currently, if the election was held today, Fritz would get 27% of the vote. Hines would get 7.8% of the vote, Steele would get 4.8% of the vote, Pointer 2.3, and Burris 1.3. I am the candidate that is ready, able, and capable of beating Fritz Pagey. So I'm here tonight asking you for your support, your endorsement, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
She just said they didn't get a lot of votes.
Next, we're gonna have you guys pull cards.
That was a slap.
Answer, please take a minute to answer the questions.
Like full of it.
So we're gonna start first with you, Ms. Pointer.
Yes.
What's the category?
Vacancy, speculation, and land use.
So vacancy, speculation, and land use. So, land banking and property speculation contributes to urban growth and disinvestment. Would you support a tax penalty for reclassification for chronically vacant commercial properties? And how would you distinguish between absentee speculation and true hardship?
That's a great question. So over the years as an analyst, this is something that I've looked at often. There have been some people, businesses who have taken advantage of the vacancy. So just say they've been getting vacancy for 3, 4, 5 years and they're doing nothing to the property. They need to be asked, what is the highest and best use for this property? If you're not going to build this up to make sure revenue is coming in, then something needs to happen. So I definitely agree that yes, there should be some type of penalties or legislation to correct those issues, because those properties cannot just chronically be off the tax roll and there's no investment into the communities. So I think that needs to change, and I definitely do agree with change for that. Thank you.
Ms. Burris, what's your question? Tech modernization and public access. The assessor's website remains confusing and inconsistent. How would you redesign data access so that homeowners, journalists, and watchdogs can monitor assessments and appeals?
That's a really good question. So I think when you're talking about data modernization and transparency, I think that when you are looking at what data points were put into determining what a particular property valuation was, you need to make sure that all of that is clearly accessible through dashboards so that people can monitor what are comparable properties to their property. Many times, the assessor, when you reassess, the assessor will give you kind of a list of properties that your property was compared to. But under this assessor, he's not looking by neighborhoods. He's doing broader, wide strokes when you're talking about property valuation and what is being compared to. And so you need to really dig down and be able to see what is going on in your individual neighborhood. We need to go back to that pinpointing. How far away is it from your property? What are the different characteristics? And all of that needs to be very transparent so you can see what adjustments was made to your set property versus another property that's being compared to in order to come to that valuation. Also with this commercial property, what data points went into creating that valuation for that commercial property? Was an appraisal reviewed? What data points were looked at for that? What comparables were used? So in order to really be transparent, everything that goes into making a decision for a particular property should be readily and easily accessible to a property owner so that they can see on its face. They don't have to guess what went into creating this property valuation. And as we know, the properties have been, the assessments have been extremely high and not supported by market value.
It is hot as hell in here.
So, transparency and valuation models.
Transparency and valuation models. The assessor's office relies heavily on mass appraisal models. Will you commit to publishing the code, assumptions, and variables used in your modeling methodology? If not, how will you balance the trade secrets versus third-party contracts and the public's right to understand how their tax burden is determined?
Okay, so I have a background in valuation. I do this work for county assessors across the country. And then, funny story, a couple of weeks ago, I asked the assessor's office for their model information for the North Townships that they sent out notices. And, you know, for an assessor that ran his campaign for 2 terms on transparency, he came back and said they wouldn't give it to me. And they said it was impossible to get. And I'm like, okay, so how did you actually mail that information to the taxpayers? Because they received their notices, but you can't send it to the Board of Review. And so I have already started working on models, and I hired a data scientist at the Board of Review, and he runs models to dictate where we have areas that need to appeal, so that I can reach out to those taxpayers. Because you know, you're working, you're busy, you have juggling kids, a job, if you're like me, 2 jobs, and you don't have time to look to see if your assessment's correct. And that's, you should be relying on your elected officials to make sure that your assessment is accurate. And so, yes, I would absolutely 100% pinpoint all of my data points. And I tell you right now, the assessor says that he does it, he doesn't. And he can't back up that math. I've tried to run it and it doesn't work. He also doesn't meet international standards. So the International Association of Assessing Officials have standards for what a good assessment is. And it's a coefficient of dispersion, and I'm gonna just get into the weeds a little bit. And basically it says that all the assessments are even, are accurate. And that number is 15. His number in Thornton Township is 32. Way beyond. He's 50% over what he should be. So we should be worried. Thank you.
The next question is for Ms. Pointer. Small businesses versus corporate real estate valuations. It says large commercial property owners often use appeals and legal firms to suppress their valuations, shifting the tax burden to small businesses and homeowners. Do you support placing a cap on the valuation reductions or appeal frequency for property above a certain threshold? Or do you believe that market competition should regulate these disparities?
I think that anyone, whether it's a business, a big business, or a small business, or any of you individuals should be able to file an appeal if you feel that your property is not assessed with. One of the major things is that the current assessor has continuously pitted the businesses against the homeowners. The Board of Review has constantly got backlash for making reductions to commercial properties, and it's not true and fair, okay? One of the things with the commercial properties, if you think about downtown Chicago, if you think about the Magnificent Mile, If you think about all of those areas, how many vacancies do you see? A lot of those places are experiencing vacancies that they're trying to get back from the pandemic. So I feel that we need to continue. I think we need to have a more basic way possibly to look at those with cap rates and things. I don't want to get into all of that jargon and legalese, but short and long of it, yes, I think that everyone should be able to appeal. If they have the evidence to support their case and we look at it and it's fair, then they should get a reduction, just like any of you who appeal. And those businesses should not be treated differently than any of you or those mom and pop shops. So that's one thing I think that we've gotten away from is fairness across the board. And we need to stick with the industry standards when evaluating these properties. Thank you.
Ms. Burris. Next question is equity in property assessments. It says Black and Latino homeowners in Cook County have historically been over-assessed, while high-value commercial properties have been under-assessed. What specific policies, algorithms, or valuation methods would you use to implement to ensure that racial and geographic equity in property assessments? And how would you report this publicly?
So there have been many studies that talk about the shift, especially when it happens when people appeal. There is a narrative that those who appeal then shift the burden onto other property owners. But the real issue and the real question we should be asking is why is there such a discrepancy between what your property value should be versus the value you get once you appeal? The key crux of the issue is you got to get those values right the first time. People shouldn't have to appeal. They should feel that their assessment and their values are fair and equitable the first time when the assessor assesses their property. If everyone in all neighborhoods, especially our communities and Black and brown communities, had fair and equitable assessments on the front end, then there wouldn't be a shift on the back end for anyone to have to appeal, whether it be commercial property owners, businesses, homeowners, anyone. There wouldn't be a shift because everyone's values would represent market value on the front end. And that's what we really need to start talking about. Why is there such an ability to reduce these values when you're looking at what the actual property is yielding, what the actual comparables in the neighborhood are? When you're looking at these comps that are in the neighborhood side by side, why isn't the land the same if you have the same square footage? Why isn't the property assessed the same if you have the exact same model as your neighbor? Those are the questions that need to be asked. Because if we get the assessments right on the front end, then you wouldn't have to worry about all these other things when you're talking about equity, because the equity starts with the assessor's office, and it would start with me as your assessor.
Go on, girl.
Commissioner Steele. Appeals process.
She feel like she's better than everybody.
Says well-connected property owners often benefit from insiders guiding their assessment appeals. What concrete steps would you take to eliminate the political influence in the appeals process? And would you support automatic audits for properties receiving multiple consecutive reductions?
Can everybody hear me?
But you got to charge them up.
Sorry. Repeat the question.
Well-connected property owners often benefit from insiders in guiding their assessments appeals. What concrete steps would you take to eliminate the political influence in the appeals process? And would you support automatic audits for all properties receiving multiple consecutive reductions?
So when I was running for Board Review Commissioner, I refused to accept campaign contributions from property tax appeal attorneys. I was the only candidate to have done so, and to my knowledge, to have ever have done so. And I did that based on the principle that the Board of Review requires commercial property owners to hire a property tax appeal attorney in order to appeal their assessments. I believe that having transparent, fair, equitable, and accurate assessments in the first place will eliminate that political pay to play. I don't know if you guys know this, but Cook County hasn't had a physical inspection of what property tax, what the properties on our tax roll look like since 1997. So the first thing I would do is start by getting out and making sure the data that the assessor has on their roll is as accurate as possible in the first place. Then I would have an assessment manual online for everyone to be able to read and follow and understand how their assessment was calculated, so that you can see if someone's getting a favor or not, and you can hold that elected official, hopefully me, accountable.
Thank you.
You understand what she said?
Cook County faces increasing pension and service funding obligations. How would you balance the need to preserve an adequate tax base with the pressure to reduce property tax burdens for homeowners, especially in gentrifying or reassessed neighborhoods?
That's a multifaceted question. But the pension issue, as I'm a Cook County employee, I know that they've made changes in tiers for some of the new employees that are coming in. So those are one of the things that they've tried to do to kind of ease that pension issue. But what was the second part of the question about the property taxes? I'm
How would you balance the need to preserve an adequate tax base with the pressure to reduce property tax burdens for homeowners?
Well, that's going to be a tough balance, and that's going to be a lot of things that are going to have to be discussed. We have to think about the levies too. Some of these things were discussed prior to, especially in the southern suburbs, with a lot of the branches of government. You got township, the local township, the county, the state, all of those things. So we really need to look at the budgets. One thing that I've learned while being out doing outreach, I've asked some of the people in the room, have you been to your school board meeting? Have you been to the budget meeting for the park district? To see what is being asked for, where these dollars they're asking for are being allocated. So we need to be more involved collectively as one. You know, all of the separate things, we have to come together. We need to listen and talk to the taxpayers. And as my role as director of outreach, I've been in the communities, I've wiped tears, I've listened to some of these big issues. So this is a difficult question to answer, but we have to work together. We have to look at these budgets and see where we can cut some fat and keep some of that money in the community. Thank you.
Ms. Burris, the property tax system is one of the most powerful redistributive tools in county government. Would you support a formal shift to a social equity index in assessments, intentionally lowering assessments for loan disinvested communities, even at the risk of litigation?
So I go back to my original point. You start with value. In communities that have been historically disinvested, the values are lower. You don't have the amenities. You don't have the sit-down restaurants in the communities. You don't have all of those things that are supporting the residential and commercial properties in those areas. So I would say that if you focus on the values and getting the values right, and you pinpoint down by neighborhoods, all of the other things will fall into place. Now, mind you, the property tax system is broken. We need to focus on a holistic approach to reforming the system as a whole. The fact that schools and all these other things are funded by property tax dollars is a difficult situation to be in. Where we can make changes by looking at programs for, different exemptions that are available in traditionally disinvested communities.